Son, and Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. One of the sights along my spiritual pilgrimage that greatly intrigued me and continues to do so, but for different reasons, was to be found in certain churches and on television on a very regular basis. My suspicion is that we have all seen this sight, a teary man, and it's almost always a man, accepting the Lord and acknowledging before many others from what great depths of sin God had rescued him. The offenses were always described as quite serious: murder, theft, gambling, alcoholism, and so forth. God's grace was always equal to the task of dealing with such a self-described miserable sinner. A new life had been granted, and maybe even a book contract. Now, I didn't doubt much of what I saw in those churches or on television. I hoped the contrition was generally genuine. I suspected that the feelings of release and forgiveness were real. And I imagined that for many of those confessors, amendment of life was attempted and perhaps achieved. Indeed, it was not up to me then, nor is it up to me now, to judge the genuineness of someone's conversion or the sincerity of their faith. The impact on me personally, however, was very different. The church culture of which those were a part encouraged a similar dredging up of sordid deeds in my past. The problem, however, was that I had done no murder. I was too young to have committed adultery. I'd never even tasted alcohol. Well, yes, perhaps I had borne false witness to my parents on occasion. But such innocent lies barely held a candle to an axe-wielding parricide. How could I ever get to the place of knowing God's love and forgiveness if I couldn't confess that I had broken at least 5 of the 10 commandments? Well, somewhere further along my spiritual journey, I became a little more suspicious of those conversion experiences. And I began to consider that there might be a sort of spiritual one-upsmanship game being played. I don't mean to imply that this is always the case, but that's how it felt to me, especially those shown on television. But I still wondered how I could confess my own meager sinfulness, being desirous of God's great grace and forgiveness. Then I began attending the Episcopal Church with its regular confession, where I could acknowledge my sinfulness even in the things that I didn't do. In good old Rite One language, I could be heartily sorry for these my misdoings. That sounded almost positively jolly. And indeed, I could receive absolution for those manifold sins and wickednesses. To be sure, that discovery of a different kind of confession was joined with a growing realization that sins are not always just the big-ticket items. But I still feel that I had come home in the confession and forgiveness sense. I could speak, or murmur, or even silently consider my faults and be granted absolution. And once a year, I could even mark that occasion literally with a smudge of burnt palms on my forehead. They never did that on television. The thing about pilgrimages of faith, however, is that they are rarely concluded. and the influential sights along the way are rarely predictable. Two different vistas soon opened up. One was reflected in the alternate Old Testament reading for today, which we also heard 2.5 weeks ago, Isaiah 58. Isaiah reports God's response to those who were fasting and wondering why it did no good. Isaiah reports, "Look, you seek your own pleasure on fast days. Fasting like yours today will never make your voice heard on high. Is that the sort of fast that pleases me? A day when a person inflicts pain on himself? Hanging your head like a reed, spreading out sackcloth and ashes? Is that what you call fasting? A day acceptable to the Lord?" The question before me, of course, became and remains, do I seek my own pleasure on this fast day? The second vista came from Charles Dickens' great novel of the French Revolution, A Tale of Two Cities. One of the minor players in that drama is simply described as a mender of roads. His only child was run down and killed by an aristocrat who thought nothing other than how inconvenient it was that the peasants couldn't keep their children off the street and out of the way of his horses. He asked what they, that is the horses they weren't hurt, were they? The road mender eventually took revenge on the aristocrat and killed him, an individual example of many of the events leading to the storming of the Bastille. Subsequent to that event, the storming of the Bastille, however, the mender of roads was still going, as Dickens put it, going forth daily to hammer out of the stones of the highway such morsels of bread as might serve for patches to hold his poor ignorant soul and his poor reduced body together. And as Dickens wrote, he worked solitary in the dust, not often troubling, to reflect that dust he was, and to dust he himself must return, being, for the most part, too much occupied in thinking how little he had for supper, and how much more he would eat if he hadn't. I was struck by these views before me, the privilege even of being able to humble myself. From my old office window in Berkeley, driving down Colfax and Denver, or even up here at the corner of Dry Creek and Chester, I could look out on those who walked up and down the street looking for a morsel. I sit in my warm house and office, rarely thinking of those outside who are bundled up against the chill. And I have the audacity to think that humbling myself by smudging ashes on my forehead might please God. That giving up sugar or television or wine for 40 days or even taking on some work of charity or devotional reading is some great spiritual exercise. No, we need tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming. It is near, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick darkness. For all, Joel implies. These new vistas have set my Lenten discipline, regardless of what evils I might give up or goods I might take on. God has confronted me with my privilege. Ashes, self-denial, and humbling myself can only be initial responses. Considering how to respond to the fast God chooses, that is, in the words of Isaiah, to break unjust fetters, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break all yokes? Is it not sharing your food with the hungry and sheltering the homeless poor if you see someone lacking clothes to clothe them? In other words, how to provide everyone with the privilege of humbling themselves is the real discipline.